Let's talk about Hawaii. Sunsets, beaches, that smell of sunscreen mixed with airport coffee. The place Americans go when they want to relax. Here's the part that never makes the brochure. Hawaii used to be a country, which means something happened between being a recognized sovereign kingdom and being carried quietly into a new status while someone else decided where it was going. That history is real. It just isn't the version most people hear. The Kingdom of Hawaii wasn't symbolic or ceremonial. It had a monarch, treaties, embassies, and formal diplomatic recognition from major powers, including the United States. American officials signed agreements with Hawaii the same way they did with other nations. No ambiguity, no footnotes. Hawaii sat in the Pacific, at the crossroads of trade routes, naval strategy, and global commerce. Small enough to pressure, important enough to matter. History tends to notice places like that, especially when they're useful. By the late 1800s, Hawaii already had elections and a legislature. On paper, it looked constitutional. In practice, the system had been quietly re-engineered. In 1887, under armed pressure from a small group of wealthy landowners and businessmen, the monarchy was forced to accept a new constitution. Voting rights were tied to income and property. Political power shifted toward plantation owners, many of them American or European. Large portions of the native Hawaiian population, along with Asian laborers, lost real political influence. Elections still happened. They just happened inside a fence. When Queen Liliʻuokalani took the throne, she inherited a system that looked representative while functioning as an oligarchy. She proposed a new constitution aimed at removing wealth-based voting barriers and restoring political participation to the Hawaiian majority. The proposal focused on reversing elite control. Plantation interests understood the stakes immediately. If political power returned to ordinary Hawaiians, control over land, labor, and Hawaii's foreign relationships could slip away. That's when politics stopped being polite. In January 1893, a group calling itself the Committee of Safety declared Hawaii unstable. They requested protection. U.S. Marines landed in Honolulu. Their presence changed everything without a shot being fired. Government buildings were occupied. A provisional government announced itself. The monarchy was warned that resistance would bring violence. The Queen faced a decision measured in lives. She chose law. She issued a formal statement, yielding authority under protest, appealing to the United States to investigate the actions of its representatives and restore the lawful government. She did not abdicate. She appealed to American law, expecting it to correct its own wrongdoing. Washington did investigate. The inquiry concluded that U.S. involvement in the overthrow had been improper and that the Queen had been wrongfully removed. The president acknowledged this publicly. History paused, nodded, and then kept going. Momentum is persuasive that way. By the time the findings were issued, the provisional government had consolidated power. Restoring the monarchy was labeled impractical. Stability took precedence. Law confirmed the injustice. Power declined to fix it. 5 years later, the Spanish-American War shifted priorities. The Pacific mattered more. Hawaii's location became indispensable. Congress passed a joint resolution absorbing Hawaii into the United States. There was no treaty ratified by Hawaii's lawful government. There was no vote among native Hawaiians. A petition opposing annexation signed by more than 21,000 native Hawaiians, a majority of the population, was delivered to Washington. It changed nothing. Hawaii became a U.S. territory. Decades later, statehood followed, framed as a celebration rather than a correction. The argument that started the story remained unresolved, quietly filed away. Native Hawaiians didn't disappear. Their language endured. Their culture survived. Their memory of sovereignty remained intact. That's why sovereignty movements still exist today. Legal, cultural, political. Some focus on land and water rights. Some on international law. Some on restoring the kingdom. They aren't driven by nostalgia. They're driven by unfinished process. When a country disappears through procedure rather than force, the absence feels administrative. It leaves room for questions to survive. America likes to tell stories about freedom, consent, and self-determination. Hawaii complicates the script. No battlefield marks the moment. No surrender ceremony closes the chapter. History doesn't always announce itself with violence. Sometimes it arrives with paperwork and patience. The outcome stayed. The consent never arrived. And Hawaii remembers both. This is Global Storm Room. Paradise has a long memory.